Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2021-6, Zahavi, Picking Up Stitches for the Sleeves. So this is the third in a series of 3 videos dealing with the front and the back of the Zahavi sweater. The Zahavi pullover is a pattern by Emily Greene and it's distributed by Brooklyn Tweed. This sweater is done in Arbor. And so this is a series of 3 videos. The first video talked about doing the exposed joinery bind off at the shoulders. So that is done. The second video talks about sewing the side seams. So that is done. Both of them are done. Okay. And so now this video is going to talk about picking up stitches for the sleeve. And so in the pattern says for my size that I am supposed to pick up and knit 74 stitches evenly around the armhole. So it says I pick them up and then I am going to join to work in the round, and then this whole sleeve is going to be a ribbed sleeve. Long ribbed sleeve is what I decided to do. But even if you're starting with the smaller sleeve, you're still going to have to pick up and knit stitches around the armhole. So the pattern for me says 74 stitches. And so what I did is I like to split my armhole into quarters. And so I just put markers a quarter of the way around the armhole. It ended up being pretty lucky for me because I've got one at the bottom and one at the top. And then each of these side markers actually ends up being right on a chevron, which is kind of convenient. I don't know whether yours are going to turn out or not that way. But what you can do is you can count the number of stitches between the bottom, or rows from the bottom of your armhole to the top of your armhole. And you can figure out how many rows are along there. And you can go ahead and put a marker that bisects those. So it turns out that I actually have, I think, close to 54 rows here. One way you can count them too is 2 purl stitches and then the block of stockinette for every one of these bands is 16 rows. So you could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 times 4 plus, you know, the extras that you have at the top is another way that you can figure that out. So I have this, my armhole now is separated into quarters. And so I divided 74 by 4, and that's 18 with 2 left over. So that tells me in each one of these sections I'm going to need to pick up 18 stitches. And then maybe I'll add a stitch for the top and add a stitch for the bottom, and that'll take me to the 74 stitches that I need to pick up. So I know I'm going to need to pick up 18 stitches between these. I know, because I counted, that I actually have 27 stitches between this marker and this first marker. So 27 stitches is more than 18, right? And it actually turns out that 18 is 2/3 of 27 stitches. So I know I am going to pick up 2 stitches and skip 1, pick up 2 stitches and skip 1 between here and here in order to get 18 along here. Now let me get the camera a little closer for you. Okay, so here we are. This is the section I'm talking about here. I'm going to need to get 18 stitches between this marker and this marker. Now what I normally do is when I pick up stitches, I use my working needle. And this is a 16-inch needle with size 4s on them, which I'm using for this project. And so this is going to be my working needle. I am also going to have on hand a DPN. And this is a helpful tool for me with this method that I use. And what I'm actually going to be doing, if you watched my side seaming video, you would see that on my side seams I pick up ladders between the edge stitches and the next row in. So this is my edge stitch. This is a very wonky stitch on the edge, and it's like knots and stitch and knot and stitch and knot and stitch. That's how it looks. So that's the wonky one on the edge. Next to it is this beautiful column of knit stitches. And I can probably even get you closer than that. Okay. So these are my wonky stitches on the edge. And then one stitch in, you can see this is wonky, and then this beautiful column of V's is my first column. And I'm going to want to pick up the ladders between the wonky stitch and the edge stitch. That's how I pick up my stitches. So this is the first stitch, and I'm going to take my DPN in my left hand. I guess I can stay this close for you. I think it'll be okay. And I take my DPN in my left hand and I find the first ladder. And I'm going to save the final stitch for where that marker is. So I'm not going to touch the stitch under that marker. But I pick up the ladder, the first ladder, and I go ahead and I insert my needle as if to knit. And then I am going to use a whole new ball of yarn because I'm working on sleeves here. So this is going to be my ball of yarn for my sleeves. And I'm just going to take my end of my yarn. I'm going to wrap the first stitch and pull it through. So that is my first stitch picked up. One. So you want to pull your ends a little bit. That'd be good. Okay. So that's one. Then I'm going to want to pick up the ladder right next to it. So you're going to have to manipulate your stitches quite a bit in order to find those ladders. But I'll go in there, and this is the next stitch and the next ladder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit through the back loop. The reason I do that is because it twists my stitch and it makes a firmer, tighter seam at the arm, which is something that I really want. So then I'm going to go to the next stitch, and if I dig in here, here's my column. I need to find the next ladder, and the next ladder is actually going to be a purl bump from a chevron. So I'm actually going to go to the next purl bump of the chevron, and I'm going to knit through the back loop of that ladder. Then I'm going to go for exactly the next ladder. Sometimes it's hard to see, but you'll see this is my column of knits right here. So I'm going to go right next to it, and I'm going to get close to where the needle is, and that's where my next ladder will be. So those are those two. Now I'm going to have to skip one. So I'm going to go, here's my column of stitches. Here's the next ladder. I'm going to skip that next ladder, and I'm going to go to the one right next to it. I'm going to knit through the back loop, and that's one. And then I'm going to find the next ladder, and that's two. So I'm now up to 6, and you'll notice how I've got like 2, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 2, skip 1 going here. So I'm going to skip 1 this time. So there's a ladder I'm going to skip. There's the next ladder through the back loop. And then I'm going to get the next ladder. I'm not going to skip this time, and I'm going to go through the back loop. And then I'm going to go skip 1. So it turns out that the next ladder is right next to the stitch. I'm going to skip that, and the one after that is a purl bump. So I'm going to knit through the back loop of that purl bump at the chevron, and I'm going to do the next ladder. Then I'm going to skip 1. So I'm skipping the next, hold on, show everybody. I'm going to skip the next ladder. I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to go to the ladder after that. So let's do this ladder and the one right next to it, the one we're not skipping. And let's count our stitches and see how we're doing. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And I need to get 6 more stitches between here and the next pin. So I am going to try to do that. And I might not even have to skip too many ladders to do that. So we should be okay. 1, 2, here's the next ladder, and then I'm going to skip a ladder. I think I can do that. And then I'll do the next ladder. 1, now if you run out here, let's say I made it to my marker already and I only have, and I haven't, I've got room yet, but let's say I think I only have 14 stitches now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Oh, I've got 16 stitches now. Let's say I hit my marker and I have 16 and I wanted 18. I would suggest that you go ahead and pull it back and redo them again. This is an easy time to do this. This is, you know, ripping out picked up stitches is one of the easier things you're going to do. So if you're not happy with it, if you've hit 16 stitches and you're already at your marker, then you're going to need to pull back and you'll need to just not skip as many so that you can fit 18 in there. If, on the other hand, you've got 18 stitches and you're all the way back here and your marker isn't until here, you're going to need to insert some more empty spaces between the picked up stitches. So let me go ahead and just get these 2 and through the back loop. One more time. And this ends up actually being a purl bump. And that's fine. So I've got 18 stitches now, and they're between my first 2 markers. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, so that's 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to go ahead and work around the rest of the armhole. And when I get near the end, I'll show you how you're going to join in the round and continue working the sleeves. So I will be back shortly. Greetings, I'm back. So I've worked all the way around picking up the stitches around the rest of the armhole. So let me back up a little bit so you can just see a little bit better the whole thing. Okay, I've got 4 stitches left to pick up here. I kept markers at the quarters just to help me keep track of stitches. You can if you want to, you don't need to. So I'm up to 14 here. I need to pick up 4 more. And then I need to join in the round. So I'm going to go ahead and use my needle, my circular needle tip here, because now that these ends are closer, it will be easier to do that than try to insert this other DPN in there to help out. So I'm going to be using my left needle of my circulars to do the picking up from now on. So I've gotten this far, and I'm going to skip a ladder, which is right there, and I'm going to pick up this ladder right next to it. There's the ladder. I'm going to insert in the back to twist it, and I'm going to pull that stitch through. So that's 1, and then I pick up the one right next to it. That's 15, no, that's 14, 15, 16, I need 2 more, 17, 18. So I'm going to skip that ladder. I'm actually going to get that purl bump because we're now into the chevron again. Okay, and last but not least, the very last ladder. And and through the back. Okay, so here we are, and I'm back at the beginning, and I am going to place a marker for the end around here, just so I know. And then we are going to be starting the sleeve. So we are going to work flat in 1x1 ribbing. So just in order to join this, all we need to do is, this is your old tail from when you joined the yarn in to start. So to get that out of the way, you don't want to be knitting with that. Oh, and this is also your old tail from, I think the underarm seam. So ignore that. Try to find your yarn that's connected to your ball, which is right here, yay. And you'll just start working knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. So this is the first stitch on the next round, and I'm just going to knit and pull tight, pull your working yarn tight, bring it to the front and purl the next one. And then all you need to do is continue knitting and purling all the way around. You might want to pull your tails here, and you will close up that little gap when you weave in your ends at the end of the project. So now you're ready to just knit and purl to start your sleeve. So thank you for joining today, and look for new videos. Bye-bye.